My name is Alison Rapping, and I'm the CEO of, do I need this?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not good with this. I'm the CEO of the Arouet Foundation, but the word CEO really just means to me, we're starting something and we're going to take it to scale. What we thought we would do today, let me guys know what you think about this, is we're going to start with some introductions and give you some context. Because I could stand up here and talk about about what we do, but it doesn't matter as much until you understand why I'm standing here. So we thought we'd do some introductions, then we'd give you just some information about mass incarceration in America. I jokingly say I am here to be connective tissue. Tina's the story. It's her journey story that matters. I just get to be here to support it. So then Tina's going to talk a little bit about her story. We're going to show you an incredible video from a TEDx that we did at Perryville Prison last year. And then we're going to do a fun activity. How does that sound, everybody? Okay, so my name is Alison Rapping, and I actually knew nothing about criminal justice reform when I started my nonprofit Odyssey. I actually started, are any of you familiar with Hands On Network or Points of Light Foundation? I started the Hands On Network affiliate in Phoenix and went to work building nationally and internationally the Hands On Network model of service, which really was mobilizing thousands of volunteers, mostly corporate volunteers, to engage in the community, and we partnered with organizations all over the valley. Then I started consulting. So I was consulting to a lot of different organizations, including one in Boulder, and my brother, I get this call from my brother, and my brother is a public defender in Washington, D.C., and he says, Allie, and I go, oh no, I don't like the sound of this. He said, Allie, I want to start a nonprofit, and I want to take these young lawyers, and I want to bring them to Georgia, and I want to put them in rural South for 3 years to reform indigent defense. And I said, okay, let me just make sure I've got this straight. You want to start a nonprofit corporation in the state of Georgia and be accountable to a board of directors and run an organization. He said, if that's what it's going to take to turn this around and to get these young lawyers, I'm going to do it. So I said, okay, you're a trial lawyer. He said, I'm going to do it. And my wife, Illy, is going to help. His wife, Ilham, is my sister-in-law, who had just been a Teach for America teacher. And so I go to Atlanta. I'm like, okay, I'm there with my flip charts and my pens, and we are mapping out how we are going to build what is now called Gideon's Army. There is a movie that went to Sundance a few years ago called Gideon's Army. The organization is Gideon's Promise, if I mess that up. But if you ever want to see a movie about some amazing young people doing some of the most important and hardest work in the criminal justice system, watch this movie. So I didn't know anything about criminal defense. It wasn't my area. I didn't really know about it. But what happened working for what started as a volunteer project 10 years later is that you cannot unsee what you have seen when you see the injustice of the criminal justice system. You cannot. So I come to this work from a little bit of a different perspective. So then I'm consulting. Well, any of you who are consultants, any of you guys consultants in here? Consulting is not a bad gig. You make decent money, you work the hours you want, you travel where you want to go, and you choose the clients that you want. So all of a sudden, somebody puts this job description in front of me and they say, you're going to apply for this job. I said, oh no, I'm not doing that again. Nonprofit startup, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, I look at the job description and it's just work for this organization called Auerette, which is about supporting women who are involved in the justice system in Arizona and in Indiana. And it is founded out of this corporation called Televerde, which I had never heard of. My first reaction was, I'm going to go work and be funded by a prison labor organization? Like, I didn't even begin to understand it. Now that I understand it, look out, world, because I am a Televerde evangelist. So I go and I meet with Lynn Oldham, who is currently my board chair, who actually was supposed to be on this stage today, but had a family emergency. Lynn is the head of HR for Zoom. And Lynn and I had coffee. I'll never forget, it was really good coffee and great French pastry, so I was sort of already winning with that. And at the end of that lunch, I went from thinking, I don't know if I want this, to desperately wanting this job. I wanted to do this because it was about criminal justice. It was about women. It was about workforce development. It was about how corporations could get involved and support this work. And then I started to meet the women of Arouette, and I was blown away. And this job has been, it'll be almost 2 years that I've been here. This job has forever changed me in every way. I cannot begin to express my gratitude to Televerde, to LISC, to all of our funders and supporters for the opportunity that they're giving for us to build an organization that really is going to be innovative in the criminal justice and in the bringing talent back to work space. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to Tina, and she's going to talk a little bit about herself, and then we're going to give you some statistics, and then we're going to get to the real part of this, which is Tina's story.
Wow. Thank you, Alison. I didn't want to use this either, but I guess I have to. I can project without it, but God, I haven't been this nervous since I think I stood in front of a judge. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming and being a part of my story, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share it with you. So, you know what, everyone has a story to tell and everyone has a story to share. I'm going to share with you my life, which I lovingly refer to as a practicing idiot for 26 years, and I retired from the Department of Corrections, Arizona Department of Corrections, and I am now a business professional working at the corporate office of Televerde. You know, the story has a beginning. I was born in '67. I'm 52 years old. I was born into a great family. I couldn't have probably picked out a better set of parents if I were given the choice. My parents adopted me at birth. My birth announcement said that I wasn't expected, I was selected. So I knew at a very young age that I was definitely loved. My parents definitely couldn't wait to have me, had great dreams and aspirations for me in my life. Went to a great school, all that good stuff. If you knew where I came from, you would never have thought that I would have ended up in prison. But it happens, and it did to me. So, oddly enough, 32 years ago in September of 1987, that was the last time I was in Las Vegas. I was with my mother, I was with my father, and we were here visiting a family friend. And I think the highlight of that trip was going to the MGM, the old MGM, and I got to see Elvis's stuff. My mom's a big fan, so it's really stood out in my memory. It was also in September of 1987 when I walked into the Arizona Department of Corrections for the first time. I was a scared 19-year-old kid. I had no street smarts. I was plenty book smart, but I did anything that I could to survive. While I was in there, the best way to stay safe was just to be angry. That worked. That kept people out, kept me safe. I also adapted to a culture there and bought into it that ultimately served me to returning to prison 4 more times for a total of 26 years. In 2002, this was my 3rd time back in prison, and a young lady named Christina Coppola said, "Tina, you need to stop making prison an option to come back. You're not going to sit on this yard and slap cards. You're going to do something with your time. You're going to fill out this application, and you're going to go to work for Televerde." Televerde? The only thing that I knew about Televerde at that time was, A, they had AC, so I could be off the yard in a refrigerated, nice, comfortable office. The money wasn't bad. And all the people that worked at Televerde, the girls that I could see on the yard, there was a light in their eyes. There was something different about them that didn't look like the rest of us. I wanted to have that. It's a grueling process. You think just because you're in prison that you can get easily hired at a job because we're captive labor? Oh, no, 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 no. Televerde is a grueling process. First of all, DOC has to clear you, that you meet the requirements. You have your GED or your high school diploma. You have to be disciplinary free, and there's a whole list of criteria. Once they say okay, then Televerde has to give you a once-over. There's some serious testing, interviews. So that process alone is nerve-wracking. I never had any corporate experience, never had any experience of talking on the phone, or any experience for what I was about to do. I ended up loving what I did. I was representing clients, talking to people, finding a need, and proposing our solution to help solve their problems. It's a pretty good thing. It's a really cool thing. Televerde being the culture that they are, just because you work there doesn't mean that you can not pay attention to the rules and not be held accountable. I wasn't quite done being a practicing idiot. I did get a ticket in DOC, and I was let go from Televerde. That was devastating. I'm the only person in Televerde history. I think I spent the 11 different interviews trying to get back. In 2013, I was released from the last time for prison. My mom had to set hard boundaries, so I couldn't parole home, so I had to find housing. Now that in itself is really hard. Fortunately enough, I was blessed to have a private owner decide, I'm going to take a chance on you and I'm going to rent you my apartment. Made it work. It was 450 square feet of my own private paradise. It was nice. It worked. I ended up getting a couple of good jobs that were with, I don't want to say competitors of Televerde. They kind of did the same thing that we did. I really wasn't quite happy because it wasn't Televerde, but I was happy in the sense that it allowed me to now make some money, you know, and start to get my life back together. So I worked 2 jobs for a while, was trying to make the most of it. In 2015, Vince Barcelo, who is our Senior Vice President of Operations, gave me a call and asked me to come in and just catch up with him. Let's just sync. So I show up to the corporate office. Vince and I had a really long, engaging conversation. He wanted to know what I've been doing, where I'm at now, and basically if I was done playing in the street. I was done. I was tired of having just a job, and I wanted to have a career, and I wanted to come home, back home to Televerde. So in August of 2015, I got an offer letter to come to work. Excuse me, yeah, 2015. And here's the really cool thing. So I don't know if any of you guys, if all of you guys are aware of what Televerde's business model is. I mean, I think you got a good shot of it. No? Okay, well, Televerde is a B2B business. Companies like SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, I can go on and name a bunch of technology companies, hire us to uncover opportunities for their sales and to develop pipeline. I'm fortunate enough today to be an inside marketing representative or sales development representative, and I represent one of our largest clients, which is SAP. And here's the really, one of the best parts. Televerde is purpose-driven, okay? They believe in women, us, those that are incarcerated. They give us a job, they give us some skills, and set us and make us ready for corporate America. Anybody that's gone in through Televerde, whether they work at corporate office now or some of are working for some of our clients. They've moved on to really great jobs, really great careers, and they're making a difference in their lives and the lives of others. Now, the really cool thing about representing SAP is they have a purpose-driven framework in their technology. I spend my day talking to state, local, and higher education, and I talk to them about how we help the state of Indiana reduce infant mortality, address the opioid epidemic, and now we're talking with states about a purpose-driven framework that is going to help reduce recidivism. Can you imagine? The people that I talk to on the phones have no idea about my story, what company I directly work for, you know, that is contracted and to represent SAP. So it's a beautiful story, and I'm certainly blessed to be a part of that and to be able to live that life now. Today, exactly 32 years from where my journey had started, 1987. I lived with my life partner. We watched our home being built from the ground up, and we share our 3-bedroom, 2-bath space with our 7-year-old pit bull. Connie used to also work for Televerde, and presently today, she works for a management company, and she directly gives Televerde the credit for the things that she learned that allowed her to succeed in what she's doing, and it's in a totally different industry. In 2016, I became a part of Arouette. I am a mentor to, I've had 2 graduates, so a total of 4. I'm a mentor to ladies that have just been released and are trying to make it back in society and who work at corporate. I selfishly said, oh yeah, pick me, I want to do that, because I thought I could help them. There's so much I could show them. There's so much that I could teach them. Lo and behold, I got everything in return. It was a gift that they'd given to me. To watch them go through the similar things that I did, and then for them to be able to come through it and see the growth, for them to be able to address some hard issues, family reunification, maybe drug addiction. It's just been an awesome, awesome experience. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know where I would be today if I didn't have Televerde and Arouette. I literally get up every morning and I love going to work. The ladies that I work with are bar none. I'll stack them up against anybody, any day, any time of year. I absolutely am in love with my company, and I'm absolutely in love with the Auerette Foundation for what they've allowed me to do, what they're giving in my life, and the effects that they're changing in women's lives daily. Thank you all for being a part of my journey and my story. Oh, and for those of you that missed it, that's my mom right here in the front row.
So I have a question to ask you all. We just got a grant from forward.us to start an Arouette Storytellers campaign. This is our first shot. What do you guys think? So we went a little out of order, but that's totally okay. What I'd like to do is just move through this. So how many of you are familiar with the justice system in America? So one thing about being at Arouette is we work with and for everyone. So people are always asking us to take a position on this or that. We don't. We do what we do. But we do it under the auspice that we understand the facts. And so I want to share a couple facts with you. That we house more than 1.5 million people in our prison system every day. What happens to people when they're in prison? Let me tell you something about prison, and it is not a judgment. It is an economic issue. When we put someone, and let's just use the state of Arizona, because that is my state, and that is where we're from. And again, this is not with value, because there's lots of reasons why things happen. It's not my job to say that this should happen or this shouldn't happen. But I do have an opportunity and a responsibility to give some facts. So here is a fact about the state of Arizona. We spent $1.1 billion a year on incarceration. I'm sure other states, I could run numbers on all the states, just so happens that we live in Arizona. Think about that. That is not only what we are spending on the prisons, because that's okay. Again, one of the things about the women that work at Televerde is they go through a lot to get to a place where they can come out and live the life that they want. And we do not define success for the women. They determine what success means to them, and we just listen and find out how we can help. But when we spend $1.1 billion on something, there's 2 things happening on the other side of that. One is the opportunity cost. What does it cost when somebody is sitting in prison? What's the cost of that? And then there's the other side of the cost, which is what happens to their children. What happens, let's say somebody goes to prison, they're the primary breadwinner. What happens to their significant other if they're home with the children? What happens if a child doesn't have a family member anymore and has to go to foster care or to a relative who maybe has 4 other children? So all of these are societal issues that we have to grapple with. But one thing about any kind of major societal issue, if we all stand on the sidelines, we're not grappling with anything. And we can't expect any small group of people to have to be responsible for this. We all collectively as communities have to be involved. And so I want to talk about I'm going to move off these slides, which is, let's go through this. Okay. Do you mind if I look at some notes? Because I actually wrote these this morning while we were sitting. So there's going to be a substantial worker shortage. According to the Furry Corn Institute, the existing shortage will reach the worst levels in 2030. Expected 85.2 million job openings will go unfilled. We need to arm this new generation of knowledge workers. Well, then we have all of these people sitting in prison. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could find ways, like Televerde, to give people the tools to be those future workers so that they can come out with livable wage jobs, that they could come out and be able to provide for their families, that they could come out with some emotional support? Because I will tell you, based on working in the prison, we are badged in the prison. I am in the prison in Indiana, and I am in the prison in Arizona. And here's something I will tell you without question. I talk to women every day. And why are they in prison? Probably it is because there is something traumatic that happened in their life. So maybe they were living behind a dumpster. Or maybe they were sexually exploited. Or maybe they just got into a crowd in high school and went a different direction. But something happened to them. And that's the issue we've got to address. What can we do? And then there's another issue. Somebody here is here from Teach for America. I'm a big fan of Teach for America. I've done a lot of work with Teach for America, and I'm passionate about the national service movement and have run AmeriCorps programs. But Teach for America is addressing this from a whole other issue that's critically important, which is how do we even ensure that children have the things that they need so that they are not entering the criminal justice system? So this is an issue. It doesn't matter where you enter this issue. Everybody's going to find somewhere in their own heart where they want to enter this issue from. I guarantee it. Even if it's something as simple as you see somebody who's homeless on the street. Why? If you get out of prison, you may be going to the homeless shelter. Even just a kind word and a smile is something you can do. No, I'm done with that one.
You want to go back to the other one?
No, I want to go to the so I want to quickly talk about what Auerette does. So Televerde started, and they had this brilliant idea because Jim Hooker, who was the CEO at the time, said, look, if women can sell, no one's not going to give them a job. And then he said, we are not going to judge people on the worst thing that they did during the worst time of their life, because we've all done something during the worst time of our life. That should not define you for the rest of your life. So Televerde created this business model that teaches these women how to do some believe me, they could sell me right under the table, and I would like to hire all of them to fundraise for Arouette, because right now we're a pretty small nonprofit. So they said, but look, we're doing this, but we're a business. We're very, very intentionally purpose-driven business, but we are a business. And if we want women to really have what they need, we've got to make an investment as a business in supporting an organization that can do the other things. So they invested the seed money in Arouette. We need to raise a lot more money, but they invested that seed money. And this is what Arouette does. We run a financial opportunity center. We run a 3-year transition program. So we start in the prison. We do a 6-month reentry program. Then we run the mentorship program. Tina is one of our mentors. Then we run a leadership development program. So it's a 3-year program, but you can enter it from anywhere. So if somebody, it's like if you don't get in at the beginning, you could still get in somewhere else. We run educational opportunity, because think about this. You get out of prison and you want higher ed, but what if you've never been involved in higher ed before? What if you've never had someone in your family that's helped you navigate the college or community college system? So we work with that. We are very much comfortable owning that we are educators on this issue. We run programs, but we also are intentional about education and storytelling. That is a very big part of what Arouet is about. And then we run a reentry success model, so that when someone gets out, they've got a case manager standing shoulder to shoulder with them, asking them what they want, not telling them what we want. I always say, I have a gift to get to do this job, but I do it alongside the women that we work with. I don't do it for them. And I don't tell them how to live their lives. They tell me how they want to live their lives, and then we figure out what we're going to do together, because we're a team. And then we run a career center. So we do employee training, we do employment placement, and we do symposiums. So we're actually right now, and I'm probably jumping out of the gate, so I might get in trouble by my board, but I doubt it. We're actually writing a booklet on how to successfully work with second chance hires. And so Michelle Scirocco, who's the Chief Corporate Responsibility Officer for Televerdi, Tammy Martinez, who is our Director of Employment Services, and I are brainstorming how we can create something that's meaningful so that people can be successful. Because it's one thing for us to stand up here and tell you, hire second chance. But there's a lot more to it. And if we want you to be successful, and we want our clients, our women, our men, our children, whoever to be successful, we've got to give tools. So that's what we're doing. So that's a little bit in a nutshell about what Arouette's all about.